Kevin has a badge now, God help us by true_madness. This happened years ago and it still brings a smile to my face. I was walking back home with a former friend of mine, long story, and we're being idiots. Laughing and chatting about something I don't know what. I look forward to see a police car driving up the street, it soon stops beside us and the passenger window goes down. I see this as the officer wanting to talk to us. So I walk over to the passenger side and here he is, Officer Kevin. Officer Kevin, evening sir, I am wondering if you seen a man and a woman? Me, I'm sorry sir, could be more specific on their description? Officer Kevin, man and woman. I was taken back slightly but still wanted to help a officer of the law. Me, are they Caucasian? Asian? Officer Kevin had a look like he was thinking before responding, man and woman. Me, are they wearing clothes, a hoodie, a jumper, a shirt? Officer Kevin, man and woman. At this point, I start testing my boundaries. Me, are they wearing orange jumpsuits? Are they naked? Officer Kevin, man and woman. I continue on using one ridiculous description after another. I even asked him if they had pink and purple polka dot skin. He still answers the same way. So here I am having fun at this man's expense, at an officer of the law. After 5 or 7 minutes of this and Officer Kevin having that do-ya look on his face as he has no idea that I am having a legit go at him. I give in. Me, I'm sorry sir, I can't help with such a vague description. Officer Kevin, that's okay, thanks for aiding me sir. He drives off. I am laughing. How that man got into the police force is still beyond me and they say he still roams the roads for the two that got away. A man and a woman. Edit, me and my former friend are both guys.
There's a fire by Ash_274. Quick post because it happened today and while I heard the whole thing, I never saw Kevina, nor do I know her history. Customer, new to the store, comes in and conducts business and near checkout gets a call on her cell phone. Note that customer is one of those people that only uses speakerphone. C for customer, K for Kevina. C, yes, Kevina. K, there's a fire. Oh my god, oh my god. Hangs up. Everyone's eyes get huge. Phone rings again. K, there's a fire in the oven. How do I put it out? C, there's a fire extinguisher next to the refrigerator. K, I don't know how to work it. Me, calm voice, there's a metal ring near the handle. Pull that out and it will snap off a piece of plastic. Squeeze the handle and aim the hose into the oven. K, I can't make it work. Oh my god. What else can I do? C, thinks for a second, throw baking soda on it. K, where's that? C, pantry, middle shelf, yellow box at the front. K, I see flour. I'll use that. C and me, no. K, here it is. Do I throw the box in? C, rip open the box and throw the powder in. K, should I turn the oven off? C, yes. K, okay. Oh my god. Oh my god. Hangs up. C, calls apartment manager, this is customer in apartment some number. There's a fire in the oven. Manager, on it. Hangs up. Side note, this is the most alert and ready property manager I have ever heard of in my life. K, calls back, it's out. I don't know what happened. I put some sort of microwave dinner in the oven and the plastic melted and caught fire. C, you can't put plastic in an oven. K, it doesn't say that anywhere. It says microwave safe or dishwasher safe or not microwave safe. It doesn't say not oven safe or anything. She starts saying she can't breathe very well and it stinks, so we tell her to open the windows and close the doors to other rooms and turn on the fan above the stove, and she continues the conversation from the balcony. Customer was grateful and paid and left to go home to that charred plastic encrusted oven.
The Kevina of all by Gaylikeurdad. In high school there was this girl in my grade who was notorious at my school for being a Kevin. She was in my history class. The teacher was showing a video of the first camera ever built. At the end of the video she raised her hand and piped up, I thought that colors weren't invented until recently, and that's her reasoning why everything was in black and white in videos and pictures. She was being as serious as possible. She genuinely thought people lived life in black and white. The history teacher looked at everyone in the class in complete awe of her stupidity. He didn't even know where to start. The same girl who, when asked to list the continents, labeled Mexico and Russia. She was also in my biology class. We were discussing the new extinction of white rhinos, and somehow, somewhere in her brain, she thought hippos and rhinos were the same animal, just one was a male and the other a female. Also, a couple weeks later, was completely baffled about the fact you can grow multiple apples from one apple. She had no clue the origin of fruit or how you can cultivate foods from the seeds. Our teacher gave up after this question and eventually never answered her questions when she asked. I guess, assuming she was messing around. But I assure you she never was. The thing about her was she had no shame in her questions and statements, like somehow, somewhere she knew them to be true, but would look so baffled when someone told her otherwise. I just wonder where this Kevina made it to in her life now. Edit, spelling.
Kevina the receptionist by iamaamaam. Setup: my children's pediatrician is a small, single doctor office with 3 nurses and a receptionist. They've recently hired a new receptionist, and after a visit with the children I realized she's a Kevin. And sorry for the dates not matching up, it took me forever to get this cleaned up to post. Story: we finish our visit and go to schedule our next. The baby's still a baby, so it's only 3 months away, and my oldest will get her annual checkup at the same visit. R. Receptionist: doctor and me. R. Hi. When's the doctor want to see you again? Chart clearly says well, check in 3 months. Me, in 3 months for his 1-year checkup. R. in a year. Isn't that too long? Me: no, not in a year. When the baby is a year. So in 3 months. Look of confusion from R. So in June, 3 months from now. R. A year just seems too far away, I better ask the doctor. Hey Drive, when do you want to see baby back? Doctor: in 3 months. R. See, I knew it wasn't a year. So we'll book him for his checkup in June. How old will he be? Me, so frustrated, baby screaming from shots, toddler ready to go, tries desperately to stay nice and calm. He'll be a year. I need to book an annual checkup for my daughter at the same time. R. Okay, let me just check her records and make sure we can charge it to insurance. Me, sounds promising, thinking this part will be easy, at least. Okay, thanks. R. Oh, she was last seen in May, so we won't be able to see her again with the baby. Insurance won't cover 2 visits in 12 months. Me, but if she was last seen in May and we're making an appointment for the end of June, that's more than a year, so it should be fine. I even confirmed it with the Drive. R. Well, I don't know. It seems too soon. I better check with him myself. I'm about ready to throw the baby's toy across the desk because screaming babies and difficult people shouldn't be put together. But convince her to just book the appointment and then ask the doctor, so I get a call the next day explaining to me how June is after May, so everything will be fine with insurance and I shouldn't worry anymore. At least I'll be down to only annual visits for the kids after this. Edit, grammar.
Kevin couldn't fly, but given a few more days, his locker might have. By Blue Cartoons. Back in 7th grade, there was a kid there named Michael. I won't even bother calling him Kevin anymore. Mike is a whack guy, who certainly isn't a jerk, but at the same time doesn't have very good decision-making skills, along with his superpower to harass Mormons and offend everyone he comes in contact with. Anyways, I got a little off topic there, back to the story. So, that year we were all taking bio and had learned about reproduction lives of various animals. For example, most turtles takes over a decade to reach sexual maturity, people take 15 to 20, and fruit flies, well, they take mere hours. Mike decides he likes these fruit flies he finds in his house one day, so went up to a swarm of them and grabbed a couple dozen in a canning jar, then puts it in his lunchbox and takes it to school. Now, Mike I guess didn't close the canning jar all the way in his lunchbox as he revealed at lunch back in August, but instead put the loosely done can in his box and put that box in his locker. He wasn't hungry that day, so he left his lunch in his locker all day and forgot to take it home. Important note: our lockers have little air vents to those above and below the respective unit, so even though the majority of the flies stayed in his compartment, there were a reasonable amount that went into the surrounding 10 or 15 after those 3 days. That was on Friday. We get back to school Tuesday because of the 3-day weekend and can hear a faint buzzing sound in mainly one of the lockers. Hey, it's middle school, it's normal I guess, but then we see Michael info his lock to put his backpack up and all heck breaks loose. 100 or so flies come out of his locker, but he doesn't care, he keeps going about his business, and the only thing getting to his locker buddy Caleb was the smell. Michael spilled a yogurt cup from his lunch into Caleb's locker below, making a very fertile breeding ground for the maggots. I don't know if this caused them to multiply at superhuman speeds, but it may very well have aided it. Michael tells everyone he told the principal about it and that it would be taken care of, but Mike was sick Wednesday, and when he came back Thursday people were onto him about his lie and told the principal about it then. It was too late. The principal thought it was a joke, so he told our bio teacher to take care of it, so when word got to her it was Friday, and the problem was way out of hand. The teachers go down there to see this clump of flies jumble out of his locker right after they broke his lock, and see the horrendous sight. There was a film of some sort on the bottom of his compartment, probably the yogurt, and saw the scale of this matter. The surrounding units were also infested, and those kids either lugged their backpacks from class to class, put their packs in their friends' lockers, or threw them onto shelves in the elementary school connected to the side of the school. Needless to say, the school got new lockers that next year, and the faculty now investigate any brought up problems regarding lockers immediately.
Kevin starts a dumpster fire, blames his friend, and denies being caught on camera. ltamr. My parents are getting ready to sell their home. This has kicked up more work than our family's beloved handyman, Ralph, can do alone. Ralph has some learning disabilities, which simply means he needs very precise instructions, including what not to do, but he's reliable, honest, works hard, and is unfailingly nice. Ralph's only weakness is naive judgment in other people, which we learned when he brought Kevin, his actual name over to help. The instructions were clear. 1. Ralph would continue mending a picket fence. 2. Kevin would work behind Ralph to paint it. The supplies were provided: brushes, rollers, paint. The tarps were already on the ground to prevent drips on the new stonework. 8 a.m., they began work. My parents leave for the day. 11 a.m., Ralph was 15 feet down the fence with repairs. Kevin had painted exactly 2 feet, poorly. Kevin tells Ralph he needs a break and disappears. Ralph keeps working. 1 p.m., Kevin returns with his old paint sprayer. He tells Ralph that it will be a better way to paint the fence. Ralph's instructions didn't include not allowing Kevin to use a sprayer, so he says okay. Ralph get back to work, now 30 feet away. 1:30 p.m., Kevin begins to spray the fence. But only after he moved the tarps, for reasons unknown. 1:45 p.m., the old sprayer, having gone through a gallon of paint and 4 feet most of it on the stonework and plants, begins to smoke. Kevin gives up. For another reason nobody understands, he decides to throw the smoking, overheated sprayer in the construction dumpster. 2:00 p.m., the dumpster is noticeably on fire. 2:05 p.m., Ralph manages to put fire out, and calls my parents. Kevin, of course, tried to blame Ralph. Nobody believed this. When my mother showed Kevin the security video recordings on her phone to give him a chance to tell the truth, he said, "That's not me. Your app's probably broken." By Kevin.
Kevina the Manager by MamieJoJackson. I just found this sub, and I thought this would be a good place to talk about the manager I had at Bath Body Works when I was 19. There are a few, so I'll number them. 1. We had the doors open to the store for a breeze during the summer, and I noticed a baby garter snake nestled in the frame, just people watching. I told Kevins that I found a baby snake, and I was going to walk him over to the wooded area behind the store real quick. She panics, wants to know what kind of snake it is. I joke around, say, "Ooh, it's a baby cobra, we live in Pennsylvania." Kevina starts freaking right out, and no matter what I or my co-workers say, she is convinced that cobras are native to Pennsylvania, and that I was surely courting death by touching this baby garter snake. I imagine she still believes that to this day. 2. A local college made it into the paper for finding a mummy in an old, unused basement storage room in their main campus. It had been borrowed from the Museum of London over 100 years ago, and then lost, so they thought. So I'm telling Kevina how great it is they found the mummy, and that she's in good condition. Kevina: well, I hope they tell her family they found her. Me: well, no, she's a mummy. Kevina: and they need to tell her family. Me: Kevina, she's a mummy, she's been dead for like 6,000 years. There's no family to tell, they're all dead. Kevina: I don't care, they should find her family and tell them they found her. Me: I'm sure they will. 3. Last one. Kevina had a few Himalayan cats, and they were all girls. Kevina bought them off of a breeder. So a person who mates cats to make more cats. And to mate cats to make more cats, you need a boy cat and a girl cat. We know this. But not Kevina. Kevins thought that because her cats were all girls, then all Himalayan cats were also girls. We explained basic biology to her, and reminded her she purchased them from a breeder, but she couldn't be convinced. She understood that there are boy cats, but according to the Living Encyclopedia Kevina, there are absolutely no male Himalayan cats. And that's all I can remember for now. I was there for 3 months before I fucked off to college, because Kevina bragged how she didn't go to college, and I got scared and went to college. The end.
Kevin makes up an excuse not to go to work. By N8 Dummy. Kevin is hanging out with friends. Kevin decides he doesn't want to go to work and wants to continue hanging out. Kevin calls into work. Kevin makes up an excuse that his brother took his only car to go to his community college classes. It's 11 o'clock at night. It's Saturday night. Kevin's job doesn't buy it and he gets in trouble. Kevin doesn't understand why. Kevin complains that they just hate him, and that no one understands how hard he works or the dedication he shows his employers.
The family Kevin, that I somehow blocked out of my memory, by deleted. I cannot believe that my brain allowed me to forget about the actual Kevin, his given name, that was a massive facepalm generator. We weren't fully related. My granny was in a common law marriage with his grandfather, who I also claimed as my own grandpa. It was a technicality, honestly. Regardless, he was a major Kevin. The specific incident that came flooding back to me was his McDonald's zest. This young'un, after a drug-fueled, which is going to be a theme here, night of doing Kevin things, he wound up buying a gun from someone with mostly drugs, but also money he had taken from his baby mama. His next move for that evening was to go to McDonald's, where he excitedly showed to gun off and explain in painstaking detail how he purchased it. To a policeman, who had stopped in for dinner while on duty. He was promptly arrested. He also stole a car, that I had sold only about a week prior, tried to rob a place and, upon trying to leave, experienced the car bursting into flames from a cracked head gasket. But that's more r/instant karma territory.
Kevina flips CrunchWrap in sizzling pan with bare hands by Castorei. It's me. I'm the Kevina. I remembered this story last night while reminiscing with a friend about how bad a cook I once was. I hope stories about being the Kevin are allowed here. I'm a mediocre cook now that I live in my apartment. But before that I was terrible. Like, really terrible. We owned no spatulas because I felt like we didn't really need them. Spoiler alert, we now own several spatulas. One night I decided to try a recipe I saw on Pinterest for Taco Bell crunch wraps. Bad idea. I should mention that I'm a fire hazard. We purchased an industrial-sized box of Second Skin, a burn bandage, and I've got maybe 20% left. I once shut down an entire chemistry experiment by giving myself caustic burns through a stupid mistake. I did that twice, actually. But anyway, that should be enough backstory for y'all to understand. So I'm preparing crunch wraps while my husband is at work. It's going smoothly, they've been assembled nicely, and it's time to wrap and flip them. To get the hexagonal shape, you wrap them and immediately toast them in a pan to prevent the tortilla from losing its shape. So here I am, with a delicious sizzling crunch wrap, and it's time for me to flip it. The first one, surprisingly, flipped fine, despite the fact that I used my bare fucking hands. This gave me confidence. I could flip crunch wraps with my hands. The second one was not fine. I put my hand into the scalding hot pan, calmer and prepared to flip. But I missed the crunch wrap and placed my entire hand directly onto the bottom of the pan. I cried. After several burn bandages and a very burnt crunch wrap, we own 6 spatulas. And I'm never allowed to make crunch wraps again.
Kevin finds out about Mentos and Coke plus bonus, the sandwich fiasco by Young Discord. So there was this one Kevin in my high school, and although generally fine, he would sometimes have his Kevin shine through. I recall 2 particular incidents, which are 1. The time Kevin found out about Mentos and Coke. Unless you were living under a rock, you know what happens when you put Mentos in Coke. The Coke froths like crazy for a little bit and it has that sort of baking soda plus vinegar effect. Anyway, Kevin found out about this as at the time of these events the Coke and Mentos thing was a brand new discovery, so everyone was doing it. Another thing I need to point out is that the school he went to was basically in a regular building, one where normal people had flats and lived in. A few floors, however, were reserved for the school. Needless to say, it was not a big school. So Kevin wanted to try the Mentos and Coke thing. Kevin bought a can of Coke and a bunch of Mentos. Kevin for some reason decided it was a good idea to try this on the 3rd floor's school classroom window. Once Kevin put the Mentos in the Coke, the obvious happened, except that it didn't occur to Kevin that the Coke that was flowing out had to go somewhere, and it did. To this day there is a giant brown skid mark all the way down the entire bright yellow building. Kevin was never caught. 2. The sandwich fiasco. Kevin had lunch as usual in the same classroom from the Mentos and Coke incident. Kevin didn't like the sandwiches his mom made, but if there was one thing Kevin hated, it was wasting food. Smart. Kevin saw some pigeons outside whilst looking out the window and thought, well, I might not like the sandwich, at least I could give it to the pigeons instead of throwing it away. The pigeons in question, however, were on a building's roof that was inaccessible from the ground floor, so Kevin decided to throw the sandwich out the classroom window onto said roof. But wait, there's more. Just as Kevin was about to throw the sandwich at the pigeons, he figured, hey, it's a simple straight throw, I'm a feeling dangerous. So Kevin turns his back to the window and threw the sandwich behind him out the window as strong as he could. Funny thing, sandwiches, they never fly as far as you'd think they would, and this sandwich was no exception. Not a few minutes later, an angry teacher storms into the classroom to give Kevin 4 weeks detention because the sandwich happened to expertly disassemble mid-flight, and as a bald man down below was soon to find out, had mayonnaise that, despite the popular urban myth being busted, landed mayo side down. Kevin had to apologize. The guy laughed it off. I guess he figured that teens will be teens, and had to spend a month in detention. The 4 weeks of detention every day was a pain in the ass. I hated every minute of it, but I did deserve it.
Kevin doesn't believe Australia exists. Despite being an exchange student in Australia. By Chad Manning, 1989. We had an argument throughout the entire geography lesson. When we showed him the pages in the class textbook, he tried to argue that Harry Potter is not real, but he's in books. When we asked him what country he was in, he said South Wales. Despite us being in Queensland, and New South Wales was a whole state over.
How Kevina Got a Job. By SaturnOrchidDragon. Here's how a Kevina got a job in the most Kevinly way possible. Kevina didn't think about where she was putting in applications, she just put them in at random. When Kevina got a call for an interview, she scheduled it without asking where the interview was. Kevina finally looked up the phone number that called her. When she did, she found out it was a place she didn't really want to work at. But since she already scheduled the interview, she decided to go anyway. Kevina really didn't care too much about getting the job or the interview. That must have come off as confidence because she was told to come back again in an hour to fill out some paperwork. When Kevina went to fill out paperwork, she didn't have half the stuff she needed. She would claim it was because she didn't expect to get the job in the first place. But in reality it was because she forgot she would need it. Kevina had written down the number for her license required to do the job at least, but that was because she didn't have the certificate itself due to her not remembering her address and guessing wrongly when filling out the form to get it mailed to her. This was over 4 months ago. She still hadn't done anything to correct this. Kevina had hoped to find another job before they offered her this job so she could turn down their offer. However, while filling out the paperwork, she realized she accidentally accepted the offer. She was too far in anyway. Kevina is still not really sure where she works and has to look it up each time someone asks her. Kevina somehow graduated from the program as one of the tops of her class, thus proving there's a difference between book smarts and life smarts. Worst part about all of this is I'm the Kevina in the story. I start tomorrow.
It was an internal email by Poortio. I've been saving these up for a little bit to have a longer list of all the great stuff our work Kevin has done. He's only been around for about 6 months and probably not much longer, as the 2 projects he has been on the customers have requested someone new. He called yesterday to tell me the last one, so I knew it was time. He has a professional project management certification on his resume but does not know the basics of project management. The phases in traditional project management are initiate, plan, execute, control, and close. We were going through all our planning documents at new hire orientation and he said, "Oh, I didn't think we'd really need to know that in real life." And he is an adjunct professor at a community college. All of his notes for meetings look like shopping lists and he is constantly getting confused about his own notes. A couple weeks ago his full notes from a 45-minute meeting were: call database, training, EFT, order equipment. He came to me after his call and asked if we had a product or anything called EFT. "No, why?" I responded. "I wrote it in my notes but don't know what it means. I thought maybe you did. Not having been on your calls, I have no idea, Kevin." We had to tell him that, although a major risk, putting I might not know who to ask for questions with no mitigation plan, was not an appropriate risk to have on a customer-facing risk list. On to the main show. Since he was made aware that he is now on a performance improvement plan, Kevin has been understandably mopey, but still acting a little differently than most people I've seen trying to keep their job. Doing things like openly asking everyone in the office, including the managers, if they have seen any job openings. He was able to chat with a recruiter the other day and afterwards told us all, again with management sitting in the same open office, that it went pretty good. Later that day he called my phone after work saying the recruiter accidentally sent him their internal email in which it was said of Kevin that he was a jerk and the interview was a waste of the recruiter's life. I asked him what answers he gave to the questions. Rather than being introspective about the answers, he was very defensive, saying he was being honest with the recruiter and they should appreciate honesty. Apparently after each of these questions the recruiter asked, "Really, that's your answer? Why are you looking to change jobs? I saw that this job was a lot closer to my home and I need to make a job change right now. What motivates you about the career field? I really need to support my wife and kids. Why have you only been in your last jobs 1 year? When you are hungry you want the best food, not just any food. So I'm looking for the best food, which is money."
A Fun New Way to Kill Yourself. By Xarkaidier. So before I begin, let me give some context. The elementary school that I went to as a kid was very protective of its students, like extremely protective. They thought if they hide things like death, racism, and the previous principal, an even bigger Kevin than the one I'm about to describe, but that's a story for later, then those bad things wouldn't exist. The Kevin in our grade was a walking paradox. He was extremely book smart, and always had one of the top 10 test scores, but he was so dumb it was surprising that he hadn't forgotten to breathe. One day during 3rd or 4th grade, the gym teacher decided to give us a tug-o-war rope. We all lined up with Kevin in the rear, holding the loop. He must thought to himself that sure, he's stronger than 20 kids, some of them 2x size, so he harped in the loop, much to the disapproval of everyone around him. When Kevin's side last, most of his team let go while the other side kept pulling. Kevin, instead of calling out for them to stop, simply began to lift the loop over his head. The slack ran out just as he was bringing it above his shoulders. They were pulling so hard that it ripped Kevin off of his feet and dragged him by the throat for at least 20 feet, turning the rope into a horizontal noose. When they finally stopped and came over to check on him, his face was blue and he was completely unconscious. How I didn't die that day is a mystery that's plagued me many a sleepless night.
Kevin fashions himself a scientist by mwad_deb_of_arcus. My friend, occasional Kevin, had heard of the Leidenfrost effect but misunderstood slightly. He heated up one of his dad's dumbbells till it was red hot. Didn't even wet his hand, just pressed the back of his hand to the hot part of it. Immediately screamed as, you bet it, the flesh of his hand started cooking. 2nd and 3rd degree burns. He kept the hand but lost some mobility. He later actually successfully tested the Leidenfrost effect, so, yay. Loved him to death. I should see what he's doing now.
A Kevin is about to get married and bachelor party goes very wrong by goodgutenguy. So I'm going to a wedding, am invited by my boyfriend. I know nothing about the couple but something seems off. We're at the dinner. The family of the couple looks not as happy as they should, and people are going in small groups to talk. I manage myself to ask the bride best friend what's going on and she tell me everything. 3 days before, Kevin went to his bachelor party with his best friends. Super wasted, they decided to go in a strip club in Barcelona, but first, friends gave Kevin a cock ring to put on, right before the strip club. Kevin with a stripper giving him a lap dance, everyone is laughing knowing that he has a cock ring. They drink more. Then Kevin, super wasted, go back to his hotel room and fall asleep. In the morning he wakes up and something is weird. He remembers that he slept with the cock ring and looks at his dick. It's black. Kevin is not. Kevin freaks out, goes to the hospital. The doctor give Kevin an exam and then tell him the truth, he has to cut his dick off. Completely. No dick, just balls. Kevin call his soon-to-be wife and tell her the whole story. She still married the dude. It's been a year now and they're still together. I have no idea how they managed, but am regularly asking friends if they have an arrangement whatsoever and nobody seems to know. I'll keep you updated, but here's the story of a complete Kevin.
Another Army Kevin by qrpc. Kevin's only discernible goal in life was to own a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. An Army recruiter not only convinced him that joining the infantry was a good way to earn the money, but if he volunteered to go to airborne school, the jump pay would help him get the money faster. Kevin wasn't a good soldier and ended up spending most of his time on fire guard in the barracks for various minor infractions. Whenever we had time off, he was sure to be there on restriction reading a copy of Easy Riders magazine. But somehow he made it as far as jump week into our first combat equipment jump. In that kind of jump, your parachute is on your back and your reserve chute is on your chest, so you need to carry your rucksack over your knees. It's set up so you can release it in the air and it hangs from a piece of 550 cord, aka paracord /. That way, it hits the ground first and you don't need to land with the extra weight. Kevin ended up being the first jumper in the stick. As we were approaching the drop zone, we completed all the safety checks and the jump master had him stand in the door waiting for the green light. With the red light still on, Kevin tried to jump. Luckily the jump master had a good grip on his harness and Kevin was pretty scrawny, so he didn't make it out the door. As soon as he was pulled back, Kevin tried again. This time the jump master nearly threw him to the floor and turned to tackle him. Somehow though, Kevin managed to duck under the jump master and literally dive out the door with the red do not jump light still on. Not long after that, the green light went on and the rest of us jumped as normal. I was assigned to a detail at the drop zone, so I got to hang around for the rest of the day. People were out in the woods looking for Kevin, and helicopters were called in too, but they couldn't find him for hours. No one wants to land in trees, but they train you on the right way to do it. If you end up hanging too high, You can open your reserve chute and use it like a rope to climb down. Kevin didn't do that. Kevin went crashing through the trees in full gear, then released his rucksack and then tried to climb down the 1/4 inch line to the ground. That added severe rope burns on both hands to his other scratches and bruises. Also, if you aren't actually in combat, they tell you to leave your parachute in the trees so rescuers can spot it from the air. Kevin didn't do that either. Somehow he managed to drag and tear it out of the trees and came staggering into the drop zone a couple hours later, all cut up and bruised with a kit bag overflowing with a torn up parachute and tree branches. We asked him why he jumped early. He said, "I thought it was time." When we asked why he tried again after the jump master pulled him back, he said, "I thought it was the wind pushing me back." Needless to say, Kevin failed out of jump school. When we were standing in formation getting our wings pinned on, they had Kevin mowing the lawn across the street. I don't know if he ever got his Harley Davidson.
Kevin, the greatest soldier who ever lived, by DanJamesv. If the brain is like a computer, then I imagine this particular Kevin's brain to be a computer which has absolutely no processing power or data in it at all. I say this to say Kevin's brain wasn't filled with misinformation, it wasn't filled with any information at all. Kevin was from the Georgia mountains and looked like a love child of Gomer Pyle and Forrest Gump. He had the same speech pattern as Gump but a lot slower and with a very deep Southern accent. I don't remember Private First Class Kevin's exact MOS job, but I do remember him being assigned to the fires section, and whatever his job was, he was so incapable of doing it that they would send him to the other sections to help us. My earliest memory of Private First Class Kevin, and maybe the first time I met this amazing embodiment of being soldier, was when he was aiding us in the supply room and he randomly and completely unprompted stopped putting up the equipment to say in his oh so slow Southern accent, "You know, I really don't like Muslim people." The entire supply room falls dead silent. The E5 sergeant makes kind of a nope face and walks out. I respond, "Okay, why do you not like Muslim people, Kevin?" Kevin responds, "They did 9/11. I then try to explain to him how in fact all Muslims aren't responsible to 9/11 and how we even have a few Muslim soldiers in our unit. Before our deployment he was heading out to the store and his NCO, boss, handed him a few dollars and asked if he didn't mind picking him up some water. Kevin then looks his boss dead in the eyes and says, "Well, I ain't the welfare office." His boss was a black man. His boss, in complete disbelief, says, "Say that again." Kevin not only repeats the statement but says it slower so he can clarify that he is in fact not a welfare office. The sergeant then takes him outside and makes him do burpees, and whenever he jumps he yells welfare on the first rep and then food stamps on the second rep. During the deployment Kevin was fired from every single job on the FOB. This included his actual MOS, the mailroom. He kept giving people the wrong mail. Forklift, he crashed the 12K forklift into one of the Afghans' shops. QRF, quick reaction force, he negligently discharged a 50 cal's hooked up to the crow's systems and almost killed one of the triple canopy guys. Yes, this happened on camp and was right outside our barracks. When Kevin did on the crow's system, the sergeant major had all of the pistols on our camp taken and chewed everyone even remotely involved with Kevin. Later that day the STG major caught Kevin on his civilian cell phone while on a SIPA computer and phone. The incident went as follows. Sct Major, Kevin. Kevin, yes, Sergeant Major? Still sitting behind the desk, cell phone in SIPA, phone on his shoulder. Sct Major, what are you doing? Kevin, I'm on Instagram, Sergeant Major. And Sct Major, Kevin. You are on Instagram. And a secure line. Do you realize the entire reason I am even at this camp today is because of you? Kevin, yes, Sergeant Major. Sct Major, and I can't even leave to get a flight out of here without still catching you fucking up. How old are you, Kevin? Kevin, 27, Sergeant Major. Sct Major, you are 27 in Afghanistan on Instagram. Kevin, yes, Sergeant Major. Sct Major, is this how you stand when addressing a Sergeant Major? Kevin snaps to attention. SGT Major, not exactly. Kevin looks confused. me, paid rest. Kevin, I'm sorry. Skt Major, you got that fucking right. Exits the room. Edit. Forgot to add that Kevin was sent home about 3 months into the deployment for obvious reasons. Our commander said yeah, I could have kept him here but he was a danger to his life and ours. Edit 2. Thanks for the Reddit gold.